Hello and welcome to Jane Tanner Designs Crochet YouTube channel. Today we'll be making the American flag bow. To get started, you are going to need red, white, and blue crochet thread, a size 8 or 1.5mm hook, scissors, and a yarn needle. To get started, we're going to make our slip knot, and then we're going to chain 48. Once we have the 48 chained, you can count it to make sure, but we're going to slip stitch into the first chain. After we make the slip stitch, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to do half double crochets back across, starting from the 47th stitch all the way back across to the beginning of our where we first started. These are going to be half double crochets. Once we have that, we're going to get ready to start our next row, but we're going to change to red. So get your red ready. And we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of the previous row. But before you slip stitch, to finish your slip stitch, you're going to finish in red instead of white. After you've done that slip stitch, you'll chain 1 and you'll do 48 half double crochets. This is your second row. Once you finish that row, we're going to switch back to white. Once again, we're going to slip stitch into the row to finish it off completely. But to finish the slip stitch, you're going to switch to white. So you'll insert your hook into the first stitch on this row, and then you'll catch the white and pull that through both the stitch and the loop on your hook. Pull the threads tight, go ahead and chain 1, and continue half double crocheting this next row. Once you've finished that row, we're going to switch again back to red. So go ahead and insert your hook into the first stitch, catch the red yarn and pull it through both loops. Pull the white thread tight, chain 1, and then once again 48 half double crochets for this fourth row. Once we finish this row, we're going to get ready to switch back to white again. So we'll insert our hook into the stitch, catch the white yarn, and pull it through both the stitch and the loop on our hook. Pull threads tight, and then we can chain 1 and do our fifth row of 48 half double crochets. All right, and once again, we're going to switch back to red. Now this next row is going to be a little bit different, but first we need to switch back to red. So go ahead and pull the red through that slip stitch, and then chain 1, and then instead of doing 48 half double crochets, we're only going to do 24 half double crochets to get to the middle of the bow. Once we reach that 12th step, you're not going to finish the half double crochet. You're going to get to the point where you have 3 loops on your hook, and you're going to change colors to blue. And this is where we're going to be starting our blue section, and we'll continue to switch halfway through like this for the rest of the bow. So go ahead and get your blue ready, and yarn over and pull it through those last 3 loops on your hook. Tuck in your threads, make sure they're all out of the way, and then we're going to do 24 half double crochets. Once you get to the back, you're going to go to do your slip stitch, and you're going to switch back to white. So go ahead and organize your yarn, your threads, chain 1, and then 24 half double crochets in white. And then once you get to that 24th stitch, you'll do it almost all the way, just until you have the 3 loops on your hook, and then you'll switch back to blue. Now the threads may get a little bit twisted and unorganized, and sometimes it takes a little bit of finagling and looping yarns over the whole bow, but the more you do it, the more you'll get the hang of it, just to try to keep things as little tangled as possible. It can be a challenge sometimes, but you'll figure it out. Go ahead and yarn over that blue and pull it through the 3 loops. Pull your threads tight, and then we'll do 24 half double crochets back to the back of the bow again. Once we get to the back, we're going to switch back to red, just like we have been doing. So insert it into the slip stitch. Make sure your threads are not too unorganized. Catch the red with the yarn, with the hook, and pull it through both the stitch and the loop. Chain 1, and then we'll do our 24 half double crochets back to the middle of the bow. Once you get to stitch 24, you'll go ahead and switch back to the blue in the middle of the stitch. And then you'll continue 24 half double crochets to the back of the bow in blue. All right, and once you're back to that stitch, you're going to switch back to white again. And like I said, there's a lot of tangles that sometimes happen, and that's okay. Switching to white, chain 1, and do 24 half double crochets to the middle of the bow. Once you're at stitch 24, you'll switch back to blue. Now the reason we don't want to cut any of these and tie them off is because you would have so many loose ends, and that would make the bow a little bulky in the middle, and that's not what we want. So we just don't tie off the ends, and we just keep yarning with what we have. Once you get to the last stitch, you'll switch back to red. You're beginning the last row of the bow. Pull that through and chain 1 and 24 half double crochets to the middle of the bow. Once you get to that 24th stitch, switch one last time to blue. And once you switch back to blue, you'll do the last 24 half double crochets. When you get back to the back of the bow, we're going to switch back to white because we need to make the faux tie. F-A-U-X, my favorite word. Faux tie. So you'll switch back to white, and then you're going to do an extra slip stitch in the next red part of the bow. Then go ahead and chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to do 2 half double crochets, one in the red and one in the blue. That's your first row. You'll chain 1 and turn and do another half double crochet in each of those stitches that you just made. We're going to continue to make 9 rows of these 2 half double crochets. Once you have those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, perfect. You're going to clip your white. Make sure you leave plenty of white yarn so that you have enough to finish it when we come back to that. Make sure you pull open your loop a little bit so that it doesn't come undone. And then we're going to work on tying off our threads. I like to tie these off really good so they don't come undone. So these top ones up here, I'm going to pull through to the bottom to get closer to their matching beginning threads from the beginning of the bow, or the middle of the bow if it's the blue. And then I'm going to tie these blue and red threads to each other. It helps to kind of flip the bow a little bit so that we're in the inside. And I tie them nice and tight, two or three times, knotting it. And then you can clip those threads right there in the middle and they'll stay nice and hidden, but nice and secure. It won't come undone, which is exactly what we want. And we're going to move on to the star section. To do the stars, you're going to get some yarn and your yarn needle. You'll need plenty of yarn for this because we're hand stitching these stars on. We're going to come up from the inside. We want those threads on the inside so that they're nice and pretty, nothing on the outside. I usually just pick a few stitches and I make little X's in the stitches, making sure on this first one that you leave a long enough tail to tie the ends together on the inside when we're done. I just make little X's. I try to keep the needle poking right back out to the front, so I don't have to be going in and out and in and back out on the back. Just tiny little X's. I usually do 2, 1, 2, 1, and you'll see that in my pattern. In my bow as you look at my bow, but honestly you can put your stars wherever you want them to be. This is your bow, you can make it how you want it, but just stitch those little X's in there. I usually stitch them until around that end fold there. I go just a little over it. You don't really need any on the back. If you wanted to, you could, but you don't really need them. And once you're doing that last star, you'll pull it all the way through, the needle all the way through instead of coming back out to the front. And then we're going to go ahead and tie off these, the tails for the white thread and cut them. I usually cut it a little shorter so I'm not dealing with a huge, long strand. I flip it a little bit so that it's easier to get to. This first knot, you'll want to leave it kind of loose so that you don't bunch the bow together in ways you don't want, but then loop it 2 or 3 times to tie it nice and tight. And then you can clip it, and once again, those threads, that ending is hidden right inside the bow. Look how cute! The next step, we're going to wrap the faux tie around. If you have a headband, you're going to want to wrap the headband in with this as you're doing it. If not, you can just put the clip in at the end, and I'll show you how to do that. But you'll want to cinch the bow together the way that you want it, and then wrap the faux tie around. Stick the headband in right there if you need it. And then you're going to insert your hook into the first half double crochet on that first side, that first row that you did, and just pull things really tight there. Then you're going to insert your hook into the other half double crochet and then the first one on the loop right there. And you'll pull that tight as well and pull it through so that you can get ready to tie it off. At this point, you can shape your bow a little bit more to make it look nice and beautiful and even, make it look how you want it to look. Pull the thread nice and tight, and then we're going to work on tying it off. Now the beginning white thread, you can pull it, I pull it through, and then you're going to want to make sure those are right next to each other so that you can tie them together. And once again, I tie it 2 or 3 times just to make sure it's extra tight and extra good. And once those are tied together, you know, just making sure that everything looks good, fixing it the way you want it to look. And then you'll pull these threads through the bow. Don't cut them yet, go ahead and pull them through the bow. Because this way when you clip them, the ends will be on the inside. That second thread, pulling it through. Then you can kind of pull them a little tight and get your scissors in there and clip those threads. And that is it. That's your American flag bow. Now the last step for this one, I'm going to put the clip on it. Let's just go to the back and slide it right in. It's super easy. And there you have it. Learning to crochet, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss a tip.